I'd like to call to order at Plan and Zone Commission meeting today, August 16th. I am Bob Ingram. I'll be your chair tonight. My co-chair or vice chair is Barb Manus to my left. The secretary, treasurer isn't here tonight. But we'll get things started. I'd like to take a second to congratulate the Southeast Little League for making it to the World Series. Only 16 teams in the country make it, and I think that's a pretty cool accomplishment. They'll be playing their first game on Thursday, I think, if I remember right. So good luck to them. We'll start off with, we have no public hearing tonight. We just have a regular meeting and only one agenda item, so we'll roll right into it. We'll start with roll call. Commissioner Manus.
Schneider.
Present.
Eichelberry.
Present.
Johnson. Tallman excused. Ingram.
Present.
Hepner.
Here.
Branscard.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Manus here. Carrington excused. Stelk.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Manus. We will move on to report of city council activity. Laura?
Thank you. So the first item is the rezoning for 1200 East 39th Street, case number REZ 22-04, which was to rezone open space to C1, is being referred back to Plan and Zone Commission. That will be, I know.
Excuse me?
Yes. So we'll explain a little bit more about it on September. We believe it will be coming before you on September 6th with more information.
Okay.
But it is being referred back to Plan and Zone Commission. And then the ordinance for case ROW 22-04, which was the unimproved alley at 2727 Glassbell, has been approved by City Council as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Laura. Secretary's report.
Second.
Secretary's report has been moved and seconded as printed. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the Secretary's report signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Hearing none, it will stay as printed. Comp plan, anything new, Laura?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We do not have any zoning activity tonight, but we do have one subdivision item, and Commissioner Eichelberry will read that.
All right, tonight we have case F22-09, request of Beckett Place Development, LLC, for a final plat of Beckett Place for a 51-lot subdivision on 25.8 acres located south of Veterans Memorial Parkway and east of Interstate 74 in Ward 6. The staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission forward F22-09 to City Council with a recommendation for approval subject to 4 findings and 13 additional conditions. And I so move.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hefner. Matt?
Okay, so as you can recall, the Plan and Zone Commission approved the preliminary plat for this subdivision at their November 2021 meeting. The applicant has returned with a final plat for your consideration. So the subject site, it's located south of Veterans Memorial Parkway, just to the east of I-74, and then there is the abutting single-family residential neighborhood surrounding to the south and east. So the site consists of just shy of 26 acres of land. The applicant will be creating 51 lots. The property is zoned R2. All proposed lots meet the minimum lot width and lot area requirements for that district. And it's also shown on our future land use map as residential general. So it's being developed according to both the zoning district and the future land use map. So on the screen is the proposed final plat. You may recall the preliminary plat. A condition of approval was to allow for the Madeline Court cul-de-sac to exceed the 600 feet of length. That was approved also by City Council. So it is the same configuration it's shown on the preliminary plat. And then the applicant will be extending Lakehurst Drive through the site, connecting to Thomas Point at the northeast. And then Whispering Pine Drive will be extended and then sent westward to connect with Lakehurst Drive to break up the block face. There's 2 proposed outlets with this development. The one in the center will house stormwater detention for the site. And so city staff is recommending approval of the final plat as shown, subject to the 4 findings. So the final plat conforms with the comprehensive plan. The final plat prepares the area for future development. 3, a variance to section 16.24.040C is warranted due to topographical challenges and safety concerns. And then finally, the final plat with conditions and the variance meet consistency with the subdivision requirements. So city staff are recommending 13 conditions on the plat. They're mostly just minor modifications and adding or changing notes on the plat. However, just a few I want to point out. So condition 4 applies to that variance for the cul-de-sac to exceed the maximum length per code. Condition 8 is to add a note stating that on-street parking will be limited to one side of the street and no parking will be allowed within the cul-de-sac. And then note number 10 would be to add a note stating stormwater detention and water quality treatment are required for the subdivision and shall be owned and maintained by the owner or homeowners association. So with that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, any thoughts or comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, would the petitioner, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you.
Am I? Okay. I have questions about number 10. What extent of water treatment are they looking at requiring for the stormwater?
So it's the standard requirement for all development within the city that they have to provide the water quality for. It will be within the detention easement, detention pond as a bench level associated with that. So it's the standard requirements for all developments within the city. Really what that note is getting at is that it's a note notifying anyone that looks at the plat that the homeowners association will be responsible for owning and maintaining it.
The detention pond or
Correct.
water quality?
They're one and the same in this case.
Okay. Thank you. One other question. Who's going to ensure that the water quality is correct?
So we are under civil review of the civil plans right now, and that is a standard practice for all development in the city that they have to provide the calculations associated with that, and then they are reviewed by staff. And so that is standard. The surveyor, the engineer is here as well, who can answer further questions if you have them.
Okay, good enough.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Would the petitioner like to step forward and discuss their project? Or a representative?
Mike Shamsey of Landmark Engineering Group. To address the stormwater comments, we're using the wet basin to address stormwater quality, and we're required to have twice the volume, and the requirement is 170,000 cubic feet. We're at a little over 200,000 cubic feet of storage below normal water level. So that's how we address the stormwater quality. And we address the detention. Our release is based off of the 2-year pre-development with a coefficient of 60, which allows us to discharge 2.643 CFS and plus our offsite, and we are under that discharge with what we have going on the basin. We're detaining right about the amount we're supposed to, or more. So,
Commissioner Reinhardt?
Yes, you're going to be displacing an awful lot of existing water absorption with homes and cement streets. So have you taken into consideration the amount of water that would normally be absorbed by the ground, displaced into these hard surfaces and ultimately into the detention pond?
yes, when we go through our analysis, we evaluate the site based off of pre-existing, pre-development conditions. And then we also evaluate the site with a reduced runoff coefficient based on the ordinance. And that's where we get our 2-year release for the 100-year event. So under a 100-year event on post-development, our release rate is based off of the 2-year pre-development rate at a lower coefficient. So I think we're discharging on a 100-year event, probably over 100 CFS, and we get to release 2.643. So it's, 2% of what we're doing. And then, so the amount of volume of water we're gonna release over time is gonna be greater, but our instantaneous volume or instantaneous release volume is a lot less.
Okay, I'm just concerned that if we get another 100-year storm or 200-year storm, that we're gonna have a lot of excess water flowing.
So
Where's it gonna go?
they're following the city's regulations, which are more restrictive than the state standard.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Continue, please. Did you have anything else?
No, just simple 51 lot subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah, so just
Yep.
part of the preliminary
Commissioners,
plat.
hold on just a second. I have Commissioner Manus has a question.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, after construction occurs, do you have some monitoring in place to make sure that your expectations were correct?
With respect to stormwater?
Yes.
Yes, we have an outfall structure that has a restriction. And then under city ordinance, we have to have an overflow that's allows for twice the volume for the 100-year event to go through. So once we reach our 100-year event, we have a spillover that allows the water to go further to the north and under Veterans Parkway. So there's restrictions and controls.
Okay, so if things were out of whack somehow, you would be able to know that in advance and handle it?
Our basin is sized to handle it. So
Okay.
if we get a large rain, we're going to be able to store it in the basin and slowly release it.
Okay. Thank you.
Laura?
So I just wanted to state that the city does do some general inspections along the way as well. But the subdivision code sits separately than the stormwater code. So I just want to kind of reframe and make sure everybody's where we need to be. Plan and Zone Commission is specifically looking to make sure they're meeting the parameters of the subdivision code. The stormwater piece of the code is handled in a different piece. So what you're looking at is the plat, but there is a civil set that is being looked at by staff and is a staff level review and approval.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Commissioner Manus. Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing- oh, Commissioner Hepner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's an underlying question that the commissioners were asking and how the city monitors long-term. And I know that that's not the question here, but I think that it's relevant to ask that. And how does that happen? Weren't you asking that, Paul?
Certainly.
Yep. So that you don't have to answer.
Yeah, this is not for you. And I think it's.
So I
don't know
think that
it
this
ever
is
got
something
answered.
that, how about we can provide something for you as a commission in writing so that you understand.
Well, maybe it's
what
not
it
even
is.
this, maybe this isn't the right place for this question to be asked, but I guess it's relevant. How does the city monitor stormwater? And I know that that's not maybe for this case, but maybe for another time.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that the best way for us to handle it, since it's it's more informational based, is
It
to
is.
give you something in writing to the commission, that it comes from the appropriate staff person that can fully answer your questions. What I can give you a general overview is we
Okay.
do have a code that all civil has to go through when they are disturbing more than 5,000 square feet. It's not a lot. It, and, and so they look at stormwater and water quality for every single one of those developments. And it always involves engineering. So you're welcome to the engineering world for that amount of work that has to come through, because it is work. There is standard methodology that needs to be used. There's standard calculations that need to be used. It's how you generate the amount of water that needs to be detained and at what rate it needs to be released at. And then, so that is looked at from the civil engineering side for subdivisions. It does get inspected along the way. It's something that does get, in terms of the storm sewer system, the public system is inspected and accepted by the city before any building permits can happen. So there are thresholds for that. There is a maintenance and repair agreement that is recorded with the county that states how it's to be maintained, instructions on how it's to be maintained. So if there is a changeover in ownership, like this will eventually be part of a homeowners association, it won't be the developer's responsibility at some point, that they understand what their roles and responsibilities are, and then it's inspected at least every 5 years. More often, I think, when it's new.
I think it's annual by the city, and every 5 years, a PE's got to recertify that the basin meets the original design intent.
So the homeowners association would then hire you or some other engineering
Any-
firm?
Any
Okay.
licensed engineer to do an inspection and report.
Very well.
Yeah, I think it's on a 5-year basis.
Does that help you, Paul? I think that's.
Yeah.
Originally, his answer kind of helped me, and then Barb's further inquiries have satisfied my need.
Thank you. I know that was more than what you needed to do. I appreciate it, though. Thanks.
Thank you,
That's all, Mr.
Commissioner.
Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hefner. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Again, this question is more for Laura. I apologize. I guess to elaborate a little bit further on this conversation is, and so would love to see something in writing. My question is, how is it monitored when the association is no longer in being? So most, covenants expire automatically after 20 years unless renewed. And I can tell you from experience that very rarely are they renewed. So what, I guess, happens with those older developments and those?
Well, I'd have to ask. I can tell you they always approach the city and ask us to buy them, and then we decline. It is something that's been coming up more and more frequently as some of the subdivisions that, a lot of subdivisions have homeowners associations almost solely for their stormwater detention.
Right.
So it is something that does get brought up. I don't have an answer for you today, but we'll incorporate that into the written response.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate your insight. Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak either in favor or in opposition? Please come up, state your name and address.
Yes, I'm Stephen Cox. I own the property on the south boundary in Lake Meadow Estates, which is a adjoining subdivision to the proposed Beckett Place subdivision. And it's good to hear concerns about stormwater management and the concerns where we're existing in an agricultural environment and surface water does move. And I think it's appropriately named Lake Meadows Estates in our current area. My biggest concern, and I've raised this on previous meetings with the committee, is that on the south border, there's flow on Lake Meadows Estates that is surface water that moves through the Beckett Place site development area. And there's obviously going to be redevelopment with grading, civil work being done, drainage systems being put in place. And I think that's extremely important because we've also seen a lot of surface water just raised as artesian water coming up naturally in the adjoining subdivision. So I think the committee's concern on this particular area is very well founded. So from our perspective as an adjoining subdivision, I'm speaking as a property owner, I don't represent anyone in the rest of the development, is to at least enable the natural flow that we have existing in the stormwater movement, that it will continue to flow across and ultimately be included in the storm management solution that will be put in place at Beckett Place. Ultimately, the water will move, end up in the detention area, and then naturally flow into the creek bed system that exists in the area. So if that continues, I think we're in the best shape we could hope for. But I just, it's oftentimes to start building walls and say, I'm worrying about my side of the wall, not worrying about the other side of the wall. So I want to raise that as a concern. And the other issue, which I have not brought up previously, is any noise abatement from the interstate system. I-74 borders the western border of Beckett Place. At the corners of, on the north is Veterans Parkway, and on the west side is Interstate 74. So you can imagine there's a significant amount of traffic noise. The subdivision to the south of us is Lakehurst subdivision, and when that area was developed, there was a significant amount of land buffering that was put in place along the interstates. You drive along the interstate, you see that there's some significant mounds of dirt that are used, I assume, to provide some sort of noise buffer, and perhaps it was also due to storm drainage as well. I don't know that there's anything in play for this subdivision. Mike, is there anything?
I'll address your
answer. That'd be great. So that was the other item, and I know it's going to come up, not only from us, but others that made some comments about that as well. So that's all we have at this point. I just wish him very well for looking forward to being good neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, address
Please.
Thanks.
The first concern brought up was stormwater from the south that flows overland through our development. It will not continue that method of overland flow. We have installed storm sewer. We're proposing to install storm sewer completely along that south boundary and picking up all the water that is coming off the lots from the Meadows, or I always call it Lakehurst. So we have inlets at every lot line. We're picking up all that water and we're piping it to the basin. So we should have no standing water on their property, nor do we want standing water on our property. I think there's more than a half a dozen inlets across that south side.
Thank you.
Second concern was Interstate 74 traffic, and we do have open space on that side, adjacent to the lots on the west side there, and that will be open space and obviously landscaped, and we have drains coming through there from Veterans Parkway from the north. We got that water coming from Veterans Parkway from the northwest. We got water coming from under I-74 from the west. We got water coming everywhere. And so, believe you me, it's a lot of water coming through. And actually, the piping system through the open space into the basin is 2 48-inch pipes. So we're piping a lot of water. We got a lot of water coming through, and we know it. So we got it under control. And there'll be trees and landscaping in an open area. So hopefully to do some sound attenuation. We're not going to be able to take care of all the sound, but we'll do our best because it could be for the benefit of our development too.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioners, any additional questions? Final call for questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Stout. Manus. Yes. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Branscott.
Yes.
Hepner.
Yes.
Tallman excused. Johnson.
Yes.
Eichelberry.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Did Steph vote?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had it recorded. Thank you. That concludes the single item of subdivision. We'll move on to future business. Anything new? Laura?
So as I mentioned, the reconsideration for the rezoning for the funeral home to reception facility will likely be on the September 6th item. This is our last meeting for August. We got a free week in there. It looks like we will have 3 subdivision plats as well. I know I keep saying that you're going to have more subdivision plats. I think I'm pretty confident at this point that there'll be 3 additional ones that you'll be seeing as well.
Thank you. Any communications, anybody? Seeing none? Staff, anything? Other business? Commissioner Hefner?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.